everyone and welcome back to another video. My name's Charlotte and today I am in a different setting, if you have not noticed, because I am visiting my boyfriend and therefore I don't have my usual background, so I hope this basic background will do. But nonetheless, I'm still here with the content. Unfortunately, I also don't have the books with me. In the video, I will just put a picture up because I don't have the physical copies with me because books are heavy. I did not bring them with me. Today's video is about my February wrap-up. So I'm going to be talking about all the books that I have read in February and tell you my opinion on them. Did I like them? Did I not like them? What is my rating? And was it a good month? Spoiler alert, it was a very good month. Alright, the first book that I'm going to be talking about is Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This is the third installment of the Kane Brothers, the Dreamland Billionaire series. It is about three brothers. Each book is about one brother experiencing their, journey with love and career and everything in between. This last installment is about Callahan Kane, who is the last brother in the Dreamland Billionaire series. He is known as this bubbly, quirky, sort of always happy guy, but behind closed doors he actually is the complete opposite. He suffered with addiction for the majority of his life. He used to be an athlete, but because of an injury he couldn't do that anymore, and this all really messed him up. As well as then 6 years before the story starts, he broke up with his then girlfriend Elena. They were friends before, but he broke her heart, and the story starts with him, in order to receive his inheritance, like his brothers before in the other two books, they have to fulfill certain tasks set by their grandpa. In order for Callahan to inherit the money, he needed to sell the lake house. Little did he know, though, that the lake house is in Elena's name as well as in Callahan's. So they had to work something out. Callahan couldn't tell Elena the real reason for selling the house, and also them meeting is the first time they've met since the time he broke up with her 6 years ago. So basically they are forced to interact again with each other, and old stuff comes up and they work through it. And, they get closer and they realize the more they talk and interact with each other and are together in proximity of each other, that, they still have feelings for another. So the story is basically about overcoming addiction, about giving second chances and friends to lovers in its core. It is so beautiful. The book had me weeping. I was emotionally not okay when I finished this book. It is so beautifully written because Lauren Asher does not romanticize addiction whatsoever. She beautifully described Callahan's addiction, and we got to see why he chose to go down this path of destroying himself, but then also of him, finding himself. The reasons he does both of those are just beautiful. And Elena, she's such a strong woman, and the fact that it's not only about, friends to lovers and romance in this book. Family is also very important, and Lauren Asher really did an amazing job portraying family and relationships. Everything just comes so well together in that book. I personally had really high expectations of this last book. Callahan was never really the sort of character that I thought he was going to be after reading Final Offer, so he really surprised me. And overall, his character, I did not know his character was so deeply disturbed. His story is just so beautiful, and the way he interacted with Elena, how he respects Elena and himself. Also, if you like men who have to grovel to get the woman, honestly, this book is for you. The groveling trope was so well done. I don't think I've ever read a book where this trope was any better done. It had me in a chokehold. Overall, it was a roller coaster of emotions. The way that Cal interacted with Cammy, Elena's daughter, he interacted just with everyone. He was so respectful, so truly himself. You know that he would move mountains for Elena. I mean, he pretty much did. So, and he has the ability to do so, let's be real. So, no, he would honestly do everything for her, and you really get that sense. It's so beautiful. I don't have anything negative to say about this book. If you like friends to lovers, if you like second chances, if you like the groveling trope, and if you just like contemporary romance with the really well-developed characters, a strong female character, and honestly a book where addiction isn't romanticized but a big part in the character development, then honestly this book is for you. If you want to read any of the 3 books, I highly recommend this one. I truly love this. And also, they are all standalone books, so if you wanted to read them independently, you could, but in each book, the other couples actually make a cameo. So you get Rowan and Sarah and Declan and Iris in this book as well. In Final Offer, you get like little glimpses of them, and they are everything. Honestly, Declan and Iris' relationship, the way they banter and talk and communicate with each other, it's just so fun and unique, and I loved seeing them in this book, even though it's just small glimpses. If you want to read them in order, I highly recommend it, but you don't have to. And lastly, before I tell you my rating, which is probably very obvious, I want to give a trigger warning, because if you haven't had noticed, addiction is mentioned in that book. So if that triggers you, be aware of it. But Lauren Asher really handles it so well. And lastly, my rating, if it isn't obvious, 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it so much. It's probably my favorite book that I've read this month. The next book, well, the next 2 books really, are the Hawthorne Legacy and the Final Gambit of the Inheritance Games series, which the first one I've read in January. I really liked it, but in February I finished this series, and I was really hyped after this first book. I heard many things about this series. Spoiler alert, I didn't hate the series, but I also didn't love the series. When I read the first book, I was just overwhelmed with the amount of characters and with the amount of information that was being dumped on you. I really struggled to keep all the information connected, and the details and plot points and just everything connected in relation to each other, and then all the characters as well, and all the names and all the plot twists. It was just a lot. That's probably my main critique point, the amount of characters and information being dumped on you, and then that results in the characters not being delved into. So like the character development is really shallow. It's not really there. I wish the book was just like, I don't know, 200 pages more, and we got different points of views, because I feel like I still don't know really who Thea is and Rebecca. I really love them. And also Xander, I feel like we didn't really delve into his character much, and Nash and Libby, and just like so many characters that lack the character development that they deserve. And also Avery in the Hawthorne Legacy has not undergone a lot of character development. I know the time frame is like pretty much straight after the Inheritance Games, and it's not a lot of, it's like, I think the whole series is a year. Still, I feel like Avery has not undergone a lot of change. And also, I just want to point out, Grayson deserved better. I feel so sorry for my boy. He has been done dirty. I understand why she has done it the way she has, but Grayson just deserved better. And I read the bonus scenes that are only available in the American editions. Thank you very much for that. But luckily on TikTok someone uploaded them. Thank you. So I read them, and they were from Jameson's and Nash's and Grayson's perspective. And that was that was everything I needed. After reading those, I think I would rate the series higher, just because we understand them, they get their presentation, and we get an insight of who they are. I totally understand why Jennifer Barnes did it the way she did. Even in the bonus chapters in the top, she says she wanted to, keep it in Avery's perspective and not mix things up too much, which I respect, I understand, but still it really lacked the inside of these characters for me personally, and it would have really benefited from 200 pages more just to get more of the characters, and then the plot point and the story would have just had time to, I don't know, merit and develop just a little bit slower. It is definitely, if you hadn't noticed, it's a fast-paced book. All the 3 books are fast-paced with very short chapters. The Hawthorne Legacy is just a continuous adventure of Avery, the 4 grandsons, and basically everyone, all her friends, to find out why Avery has been chosen as the heiress to the Hawthorne legacy. While doing that, Avery goes through the hell of it. She's trying to find out where her heart lies, where her feelings lie for which boy, just trying to figure out her life. That's basically what this book is about, just continuing the adventure, finding out why her. Hawthorne Legacy was the weakest book of this series. Nonetheless, I still loved it. I still liked the characters a lot, and I was just very intrigued, to find out why Avery had been chosen and all the other mystery bits, and that really kept me going, mostly to find out though what the mystery is rather than because of the characters, to be honest. So I rated the Hawthorne Legacy 3.5 stars, and then the Final Gambit, I'm just gonna get the rating out the way. I rated it 4 stars. The Final Gambit struggled a little bit in the beginning, so it was rather slow in the beginning, but I would say about 1/3 into the book, it got really good. Like, it really got me hooked. Again, there were tons of puzzles, but this time not why Avery had been chosen. Now we have a different adventure. Wow, that book, the plot twist, and again, Grayson, oh my god, I was so sad what he had to go through. I felt so sorry for him. Again, he deserved better. I'm gonna stress this for the entire video when I'm going to be talking about these books, because he just deserved so much better. I feel like in this book, he got toyed with, and that was obviously the point, but I feel like she kind of overdone it a little bit, and poor Grayson, he's just been made fun of and used. He didn't deserve it. I know I'm talking about Grayson a lot. I do like Jameson a lot as well. He is so sweet, and I understand, where he's coming from. And I love Jameson. I love his character. I love his adventurous, risky character. The other grandsons, Xander, I really liked him. I know he's the favorite character of a lot of people just because he's this quirky, fun character that brings a smile to everyone's face. Xander felt a little bit too childish for me for his age. He came across like a 13-year-old, not a 17-year-old. I did like him a lot. He was just lighthearted, funny, but a little bit too childish for me. And Max's character, I really did not like the way she couldn't say swear words. I'm like, girl, you're 18 now, and you're not living with your parents anymore. Stop saying facts instead of the actual swear word. So that really annoyed me. I'm like, girl, please don't. But I did like Max a lot, and Max and Xander were really cute. But for me personally, Nash and Libby stole the show, and I'm so sad that we did not get to hear and read more of them, and I really hope that Jennifer Barnes comes out with a book about them. I love them so much, probably more than Avery. I'm really sorry, but they stole the show for me. But I love Jameson. He was so cute in the Final Gambit. Like, honestly, I have so many cute quotes from him. I really do like him, and everyone. I like all the characters. I just wish they had more of an in-depth storyline, and that we could have explored more of who they are. I feel like with these extra chapters from the Barnes & Noble's edition in America, you really got to see these characters for who they are and just get the sort of insight of who the characters are, of their personalities and thoughts and everything and feelings, and that was really lacking in the normal editions. The ending was perfect, and I'm so thankful Jennifer Barnes decided to do that. Honestly, everyone should do that. That was just perfect. Overall, the entire series, I give 4 stars. If you like mystery, if you like love triangle, suspense, short chapters, so a really fast-paced book, and just lots of puzzle and mystery, then you will really like this series. Alright, my 4th book that I've read this month is Love in Other Words. This book mentally and emotionally destroyed me. I was a sobbing mess when I finished this book. But I must say, I initially rated it 5 stars. I've gone down to 4.5 stars. So spoiler alert, my rating. Just because obviously after reading a book you're always on a high. I had time to think. I love this book, but it has one little problem in it. That's why I've gone down to 4.5 stars. Love in Other Words is about Maisie and Elliot, who are childhood friends because Maisie's dad decided to buy a lake house to just spend the summers there, go away from the city. That was next to Elliot's family. Elliot and Maisie met because they lived next to each other. They both like books, like reading, are both lonely and the same age. So they grew closer together. We get to see them and read about them as they grow up. The book is written in dual timelines, so we get their childhood and we get their present. So I think that's 11 years later, so when they're adults. So it's a back and forth, but it does not bother me at all. It is actually so beautifully done, the way it's going back and forth, but doesn't disrupt the story whatsoever. And we also get like little glimpses into why they are the way they are and what really happened to them and how tragic their, eventual breakup was. So we get to follow the friendship grow stronger and stronger and into something more, and then the eventual breakup, and then 11 years later we get to see them in the present, who they become, and what's going on in their life. And then they obviously, after 11 years meet for the first time, and we get to just see them grow closer again and sort of deny it at first, but then, they still realize they actually do really still have feelings for each other, and eventually find out, what caused this breakup. Honestly, Christina Lauren, I've done such a good job because the writing is so vivid and lively. It's just so beautiful. You really feel immersed into the book, into their relationship, into their life back then and now. Overall, this book has great build-up and tension, and it's just so delicious, the suspense, and the climax of this book really had me freaking sobbing. I did not expect it. I was not spoiled, so it hit me like a truck. I was so emotionally just damaged after this book. But in the best way. It just pulls your heartstrings, this book, honestly, in all the directions. It's just a very cute friends to lovers, second chances book that has found family and just the all-consuming love, even after, not having seen each other for 11 years. I really don't have anything really negative to say. Some certain scenes, especially near the end when it comes to Elliot, could have been handled a little bit better, because I'm not sure if it's very problematic. I don't want to spoil anything. But there is one scene that, is a tiny bit problematic. That's why I've gone down from 5 stars to 4.5 stars. Just because, I'm not sure if that has been handled and been portrayed rather appropriately. But nonetheless, it's still a very beautiful book, very beautiful friendship and tension, and just, that's just soulmates, and you can really see that in the writing, and the quotes I have from that book are beautiful. I love it. Okay, the 5th book that I have read this month is Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. This is the second installment in the Knock 'Em Out series. This is about Nash. The first one is about Knox. They're brothers. I was really excited for Things We Hide from the Light, and it did not disappoint. Spoiler. I really, really liked it. This book is about Nash. Like I said, he's Knox's brother. He's the chief police, I think. Well, he's a police officer in Knock 'Em Out. I'm not sure about the American rankings. I forgot. And he has been through it since, getting shot at in Knox's book. If you don't know, definitely read it. He has suffered quite a bit with his injuries and also with his, mental state, because he's just not been well overall since that incident, and he's just been sort of a shell of a person. And then one day he stumbles across Lena in his apartment because she moves in next to him. And, he knows her because she's Nox's ex-girlfriend, so they know each other. He doesn't really know what Lena's agenda is, why she has moved to knock him out next door to him. So he's, suspicious, and he doesn't really know what she's about, and she really isn't interested in him. The more they're sort of forced to be together and around each other, they don't realize how much their, agendas collide with each other. Lena helps Nash become a better person, and Lena is honestly such a strong, independent female character. She is really the baddest bitch of them all, and it really comes across as that, but not in a negative way. She's really described in a positive light. Nash really is this fragile, wounded, vulnerable hero in this story. You really feel for him, and again, the, mental illness, depression, panic attacks are not romanticized whatsoever. She's really written about it in a way that makes you feel for the character, but not just because, they have panic attacks and stuff, but because it really impacts their whole life, and you really can feel that when you read about Nash. Also, as I've mentioned with Things We Never Got Over, you really fall in love with all the characters. There are not a lot of characters, but there is enough characters, and I love every single character. I don't think there's any that I don't love. Also, as with the Kane brothers, because this is also, the second book from two brothers, Nox and Naomi get so many cameos in Things We Hide from the Light. It is so freaking great. I love Nox and Naomi's relationship so freaking much, and also Naomi and Lena's and Sloane's friendship is so special to me. They are honestly such true friends, and you can really see that in the way they want to help Lena and the way they're there for her this whole time, overcoming, everything, finding herself, realizing things about herself, and they're just always there for you. Same with Jeremiah. And also Waylay, becomes part of the story, and it's just, you just literally fall in love with every character. They're described in such a beautiful way, and they're always there for each other. It's so beautiful. I love every single character in this book. The character development from Nash and Lena is a little bit slow to begin with, I must say. It's on the first part of the book. I was getting a little bored just because nothing really was happening, and yeah, it was just a little bit slow also with the story, with the plot development, but then it definitely picked up, and the more the other characters came into play really helped the story. So I must say the book really heavily depended on the other characters more than Nash and Lena. So for me, Nash in this book was left a little bit, on the sidelines. So I really liked him in Things We Never Got Over, but I feel like he lacked a little bit in Things We Hide from the Light, just because he was just a little bit more boring. I don't know how to explain it much, but he was made up to be this certain character in the first installment, and then in the book that was about him, he was just kind of lacking. I don't know, that was just something missing for his character. So that was what I was mostly disappointed in, and also that sometimes I found myself more excited about Nox and Naomi's cameo than actually reading about Nash and Lena. But having said that, I like the whole book, and I like the whole characters. I like the plot point. I like the suspense and groveling and just slow burn, forced proximity kind of relationship. That was beautifully done, and also the end had me sopping. Let's not talk about the epilogue or the extended epilogue. I was a mess, and I cannot wait for Lucien's book. I think it's gonna be my favorite. I can feel it. I just love Lucien and Sloane so much. And if you've read the extended epilogue, I was shocked. Please, if you read it, let me know in the comments what your reactions were after reading the extended epilogue, because I was gobsmacked. I could not believe what I was reading. So overall, I really liked this book. Lena was a badass character. Nash also a very good, vulnerable, wounded hero, whereas also a little bit boring. Nox and Naomi, I love them. And the slow burn is exquisite. You will love it. Just read it for the slow burn. You will love it. Overall, I gave this book 5 stars just because I really loved it. Even though Nash was a teeny weeny bit boring, more boring than I thought he was going to be. But I loved it so much. Alright, so this month I slightly deviated from my TBR list because I said I would start Throne of Glass. Now, I have not started Throne of Glass. I instead have picked up another series from Sarah J. Maas that I have not read, and that is Crescent City. So I started House of Blood and Earth instead of Throne of Glass. So I'm gonna read that series first and then delve into Throne of Glass. Right, I finished House of Earth and Blood yesterday, and wow, what a journey that was. I heard so many good things about this book. And let me tell you, they were all right in what they were saying, because this book is beautiful. The story and world building that Sarah J. Maas has done in this book is out of this world. Quite literally. The world has been described so beautifully and so detailed. The most vivid world building I've probably ever read. And beside that, Bryce Quinlan, honestly, wow, what a freaking FMC. See, she's such an unlikely main character because she started out in a place sort of abandonment. She was sort of on her own, saying that she has found a really, really great friend in Danica. Start the book by getting to know their friendship, and we're getting to know Danica, and she is honestly, their friendship is described in such a beautiful way, and Danica was such a good friend to Bryce. When the horrible thing happened to Danica, Bryce was destroyed. She was a shell of a human after Danica's, murder, and that's what then this book is about. So it's about Bryce, sort of wanting revenge and justice for Danica's murder, and she couldn't really live her life without knowing the person who's responsible for her grief and the death of her best friend is behind bars. So she goes on this mission to find the murderer, and then during that she uncovers certain things, and the governor of the city, who's called Mika, puts then Hunt, who is in the 33rd Legion, which is, I guess, sort of similar to the police, on the quest with Bryce. And so they get to go on this hunt for the murderer together. Hunt being an archangel. There's definitely things wrong in his life and in his past that, made him the way he is and who he is. So he gets put together with Bryce, and they bump heads with each other at first because Bryce is really, really independent and really doesn't need anyone in her life, especially not a boy. And she's sort of emotionally unavailable to start with. They get put on this quest together and to solve the murder, and they uncover crazy things that link together with the murder. They think that it does, but they're not sure if it does because it ties in with Danica. And to Bryce, Danica was always this, happy, quirky human being that always told her the truth. But it turns out, that Danica didn't really tell her anything, and that Danica definitely hid a lot of her life from Bryce. And it also puts a very refreshing twist on the chosen one trope, while also exploring power of sacrifice and the trust in love. Also, the satisfying character development is crazy. Sarah J. Maas really did an amazing job with this character development, because wow, Bryce from the beginning of the book is not the same as the end of the book. And I know a lot of people, same as me, thought, wow, this book is freaking huge. But I don't think I would change one single thing about the length of this book, because we get to really delve into these characters, and all of these characters, please, I love all of them. I don't think I would give up on any syllable in this freaking book, because every line, every word help make the characters who they are. It just makes it so much more special. So Sarah J Maas really did a great job with that. As I've said, it is a long book, and the first 200 pages is just information dump. It is so much information for you, and that just gets thrown onto you. And while I was a little bit overwhelmed, I knew it going into the book, people have told me. So I was prepared, but still, it was a lot of information. And I was like, oh, am I gonna get through this? But I'm so glad I did, because afterwards you don't want to stop reading. It honestly, it gets better, trust me. And the information at the beginning, just try and read it and pay attention to it, because you will benefit from it later, trust me. Overall, Crescent City 1 had me honestly weeping and laughing, and just all the good and bad emotions all in one. I went through an emotional roller coaster reading this book, but in the best way, and I appreciate that Sarah J Maas made me go through this. She has really outdone herself with the world building. The amount of fae and other species are described in this book. The fact that humans have no power whatsoever, and Bryce is the sort of representation of the reckless side of the city, because she is powerless. Basically, she's a half-breed, half-human, half-fae, but she has no powers at all. She is born in this society where, she goes partying, she takes drugs, she, has one-night stands, and she's known as this party girl that represents this reckless side of the humans. Overall, themes like friendship is really important in this book. Most importantly, Bryce's and Danika's friendship, because Danika and Bryce's friendship is described as the most loving and all-consuming sort of friendship. You can only hope to have this sort of friendship, because the way that Bryce was determined to revenge Danika, and the way it destroyed her after what happened to Danika, really showed Bryce's love for Danika. And even Danika in her death was still there for Bryce. It's definitely the most beautiful thing that Sarah J Maas has written about. Their sisterly support and faith in each other, and their loyalty was above anything else for them. And I just remember crying so hard whenever I read about their friendship, and whenever Bryce, remembered anything about their friendship and just was talking about Danika and the past. It had me freaking sobbing. And obviously, romance is not missing in this book, though it is definitely taking a step back, because romance is not the most prominent in the book. It is barely present at all. It is mostly about the slow burn, suspense, angst, and tension between Bryce and Hunt. It is definitely throughout the whole book. So if you love tension and suspense and slow burn, and I guess you can say forced proximity, this book is for you. There's not a lot of stuff happening between them. I understand why, in a way. It is definitely all about the suspense in between Bryce and Hunt. But it is delicious. It is so it sucks you in, because you just want to see more of them together, because they make such a great team. Overall, Bryce and Hunt's relationship is all about the slow burn. Overall, this book is amazing. If you love urban fantasy, sci-fi dystopian with fae and vampires and other royalty, and a twist to the chosen one trope, and slow burn, and a really strong main character, and this book is definitely for you. And if you like Akota and anything of Sarah J Maas and you haven't read this yet, I highly recommend it. I can't believe it took me 3 years to finally read it, but I'm so glad I did, and I have started her second book, House of Sky and Breath, already, because I couldn't wait to read about Bryce and Hunt's quests to see where their journey is gonna take them. And I rated this 5 stars out of 5 stars because I loved it so much. Alright, so these have been my 6 books of February. Overall, it's definitely been a romance-heavy month with only 1 fantasy book. It's my goal in February to read mostly romance because it's the month of love, and I have succeeded. I overall really, really like what I've read. I'm happy with all the books I've read. Yeah, if you've read any of these and have your own opinions, I would really like to know what you thought of these books, or if you're planning to read any of them now after I reviewed them for you. I would be really interested if, my review made you intrigued for one of these books. I am excited to read my new books in March and tell you all about them, but until then, I'll see you soon. Bye!